Check one, check two.
Welcome to the Koz and Bru Show. I apologize in advance for that lame-ass entry, but that's just how I feel today. This wonderful Tuesday in Sacramento, California. Sitting here with Brother Koz. How you doing?
I'm living, man. I'm doing good.
Are you living in the city?
For the city.
I always mess that up. It's for the city, not in the city.
For the city.
I guess if you're in the city, you're just taking advantage of the city. If you live for the city, you're either crime fighting or maybe doing something positive for society, which is really rare if you think about it. Most of us just live in the city.
That's true.
There are very few of us that live for the city.
That's true. That's a very good point, and a sad one as well.
I know, right?
There's very few people that are doing stuff positive for their community.
Yeah. And that's what you get when you come to the Koz and Bru Show, is an ethics lesson, or a civics lesson, I should say, and maybe some basketball talk. So follow us online if you would like that basketball talk at www.kozandbru show. Stat Boy and Lazy Tom have been getting on me for not ever doing anything right.
Well, I guess they have a point.
Yeah. We should definitely replace me with somebody that does this a lot better. Like Thunder Dan Vesperis would be a good replacement for me.
Who the heck is Thunder Dan Vesperis?
You don't know?
Is this one of our hoop ball writers that I should know?
No. He runs Fantasy NBA Today, which is the only way that you can get out of the, I don't know, the ire of Thunder Dan, because you're not listening to his podcast. But the reason why is it's about fantasy sports.
Okay.
But I got to tell you, it's also about lots of regular just hoops. Well, it's a good podcast.
I'm gonna jump in. I have to do one this year, so I'm not completely falling asleep whenever you're talking about fantasy.
I think that we're gonna put you and Thunder Dan together on a podcast. We'll probably end up replacing me with the golden pipes of Thunder Dan.
Okay.
And that'll probably be better for the listeners.
Is he Thunder Dan because of his booming thunder-like voice?
That was not the thought process behind it. But that actually makes more sense than what originally there was a Thunder Dan that kept winning our daily fantasy sports podcast contest.
Okay.
And then the nickname just arbitrarily transferred over to our Dan. Because really, if you're named Dan,
yes,
Thunder Dan is a natural progression.
Yes.
You don't have a nickname. Thunder Dan is just kind of a nice cookie cutter nickname.
Yeah. The nicknames for Dan would lean, besides Thunder Dan, also.
Well, there's also Dan the Man.
Dan the Man. Besides Dan the Man and Thunder Dan, they kind of lean towards corniness, like
Dan the Man.
Well, yeah, but at least that's yeah, I guess.
Are there other Dan nicknames out there?
Well, you can make fun of Dan, so Dainty Dan, and Dumbass Dan. There's just. Like, for some reason, Dan's easy.
There goes Dumbass Dan again, doing that dumbass stuff that Dan does.
And once you do the dumb thing, if you're a Dan, you do the dumb thing, and someone calls you Dumbass Dan in front of enough people, that'll stick. Yeah, that's definitely not going anywhere. You cure cancer the next week, and that's still not. You're still gonna be. Yeah. Can you believe Dumbass Dan cured cancer? It's the way it goes.
Okay, do you know a Dan? Do I know a Dan? That we call Dumbass Dan?
No. No, the only Dan I know is like a principal, and he went to Stanford, so he's not dumb. But big shout out to Dan Stearns.
You can tell that there's not a lot going on in the NBA because we're really not dying to get to this. But you know what? Hey, this is our trade rumor extravaganza. Extravaganza. No, it's there's nothing going on. Summer League.
That just finished, right?
Yeah, actually, as far as finishes go, the Summer League final was pretty good.
I didn't watch it. I should have.
I think it went like this. Tyus Edney goes down and hits a Steph Curry 3.
You mean
Tyus Jones.
Tyus Edney, UCLA, 1994-ish?
Great full court shot.
Yes.
Or full court fast break, whatever you want to call it. Tyus Edney Jones hits a Steph Curry step back 3.
He's had a nice Summer League, too.
Yeah. And this tail end of Summer League is really rough on everybody involved because if you're a writer there, you've been through, like the year we went, we'd heard Turn Down for What.
Oh, yeah.
And Iggy Azalea?
What about her?
We heard her song a million times.
Did we?
And you've been in the heat for 10 days.
Yeah.
And you've probably slept a good average of 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
And you've done way too much networking, if we want to call it that.
Right. Too much networking, yes.
And so the coverage gets sparse. The rosters get thin. The end of the Summer League bench guys start playing. Tyus Jones has been taking advantage of his opportunities in that environment. So he hits a three. I believe it was Denzel Valentine that came back and hit a game-tying three to send it to overtime. And in his Summer League final, it's a first shot wins overtime.
Is that really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I would kind of like to see that in like
in the NBA.
Something of that ilk.
First shot wins. That'd be great. We can just do win by 2, you know.
Oh, that would
or
be
win
good.
by 4, I guess would be the. Maybe that would be a better. That would keep the times down for sure.
Yeah.
A win by 4, overtime.
Can you imagine like two teams that just had gone to 31? You know, like they're winning. They have to win by 2, or however you do it. 1s and 2s for 2s and 3s. But see, that really rewards the 3-point shooter.
Yeah, so it's the same as pickup.
I would go for that.
Win by 4. Win by 4. You have to win. You have to stop. You got to score. Get a stop. Get another score. I think that's fair.
That would be great if you ever got the teams up at like 200 to 201, and they're just dying.
Yeah,
and they don't even care anymore.
Awesome. It'd be great.
So yeah, they. So then I think Valentine came back and hit the final shot, and they won Summer League. Summer League is done.
Yes.
And that brings us to the dog days of July.
That's an interesting for them to get him. I like Denzel a lot, and I was surprised he was there for them. But it really, with the Dwayne Wade move, is there any worry that he's going to get squashed in the mix, particularly how much Rondo is going to hold on to the ball? I kind of worry about a guy like his development, you know, because
they're screwed.
I mean, he also needs the ball. I mean, he's not just a spot up shooter. I mean, he needs the ball. He needs to be in the flow of an offense, and I just don't know I think the Bulls really didn't think. I think just when the Dwayne Wade opportunity came along, they just got all bright-eyed and didn't really think what they had already done. You know?
Well, Jimmy Butler was hot in the trade market, and Tom Thibodeau, as well as the Bulls, have really backed off on their trade talks, meaning like, especially with the media. So Ricky Rubio is a guy that they've been wanting to move, and you see Tom Thibodeau and the Wolves come out and say, we don't want to move Ricky. We're happy with Ricky and Chris Stein. They can both play. There's not too many ball handlers on the team.
Right.
Same thing's happening across the league with Russell Westbrook and the Thunder. Oh, we're gonna just hold on to Russell. We're just gonna keep him. We don't need a blood oath.
Yeah.
It'll all go fine. So I don't know. With the Bulls, it would make a lot of sense to trade Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like a Fred Hoiberg kind of guy.
Because he plays defense, and
and
Hoiberg's never heard of the word.
I mean, if you're going to get rid, and more so probably because if you're not going to get anything for Rondo. Obviously, you're not going to get anything for Dwayne Wade.
Right.
I mean, you probably, I don't know, probably not going to get anything for Dwayne Wade. We'll just leave it at that. If I don't even know,
when can't move him anyway.
Whenever he's eligible to be traded.
Right.
The Jimmy Butler, though.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
And so whether it's Minnesota or another team, you're hitting the weird reset button anyway. It's not even a reset button. It's the weird reset button that the Bulls have hit.
That's the other thing I really didn't like about them acquiring him, is because they're in that they might make the playoffs. They're gonna be though in that 8 to 11 range in the East. They're just, you want to be either bad or you want to be good, and that's just a terrible place to be. So their
argument is actually the exact opposite.
They
say, and this is, I guess, the anti-tanking argument is you got to be good to be able to get free agents. And I kind of get that because, like, the Kings, for instance, we'll just pick the local team. they just desperately need to prove to people that they can be respectable. And they can't continue to go 20 loss seasons or 30 loss seasons and have a chance of getting anybody in free agency. So maybe Chicago is a better destination,
right,
for free agents, and they shouldn't be worrying about that as much. I'm just putting the other side of the argument out
right,
there.
no,
I'm kind of with you that like this kind of rebuild, this isn't valuable.
No, because I mean you want to get you want to build your team through the draft. I mean your thing shouldn't be free agents. Free agent that's like a cherry on top. That's a key guy. You want to get this. I mean obviously when someone like Durant's available or have one of those mega stars, you could throw your hat in the game, but really you want to be building the core of your team through the draft, because what you're going to have the opportunity to do is maybe have really, really, really good players on the cheap. So that's always the best way to build your team in any sport.
Yeah, the rookie wage scale.
Yeah.
And what's also interesting about this is I just think that these particular players are going to just destroy all of their young guys.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not going to be a good developmental situation. So I feel like the Bulls are just hitting, I called it the weird reset. It's more like Gar Forman this is his last kind of heave at the buzzer. And Fred Hoiberg is a big part of that, because they really just turned away from a really good situation to get Fred Hoiberg.
Right.
They're going to be a top storyline. And, of course, probably to shift gears, the Thunder going forward are going, for as little news as there is, we got some pretty big things going on with the Thunder and then Blake Griffin and the Clippers and some of the pieces that move around them. We'll talk about that, I think, after the break. Let's get some small items out of the way here while we still have some time to burn. Marc Gasol is out of the Olympics. Nothing really big there.
No, smart move.
Yeah. But this is, for the Memphis Grizzlies, I guess it's good news for them, because I wouldn't want that guy playing.
Oh, in the Olympics?
No
way. Not coming off an injury. He
needs all the time.
He just gave the guy $120 million, and he's not young anymore. So I think it's a very good thing if you're Memphis. Very good thing that he'll be 100% coming into camp and ready to go. They're an interesting team. They're an interesting team because they feel like they're just so plateaued. They kind of had to bring back Mike Conley.
But they're kind of like the Kings in a way. They've never gotten a good free agent to come to Memphis.
No.
And they like Chandler Parsons might have been their best free agent. Somebody in Memphis, correct me if I'm wrong, if Mike Conley doesn't come back.
Yeah.
Like, landing Mike Conley was probably their best.
Yeah.
I guess, though. See, but Gasol never did the tour.
No, Gasol that's where he wanted to be. He signed. He didn't do a tour.
There was no uncertainty there.
No. I don't know that there was really Mike Conley, I don't know who he met with, but
Dallas was coming hard.
They were coming hard. But I think he wanted it. I think he wanted to be there, and it was just waiting for them to get it done.
There was an association. I think that's the name of the NBA TV produced show. It just followed Mike Conley around town in Memphis. You could just tell he loves the place.
Yeah.
That goes a long way. Like, people talk about DeMarcus Cousins leaving Sacramento.
He likes Sacramento.
Yeah. I don't think he's really a big media or big city, media kind of guy.
That would be a terrible thing for him. Like the whole thing of his people wanting him to be in LA, to me, is hilarious.
Well, you got to define which of his people.
That's true.
Because like his inner circle loves Sacramento.
Okay.
And
his bigger people, people that he employs.
Yeah, maybe certain shoe companies and certain agents.
But him with the LA media, to me, just seems like a terrible marriage.
Well, yeah. Well, you could look at the recent comments that he made just yesterday to Sean Cunningham, who the great Sean Cunningham of News 10, also known as the DeMarcus Whisperer, because he could talk to DeMarcus and get actual responses. Mm-hmm. Sean asked him about Papagiannis. And so DeMarcus tweeted, Lord give me strength, or whatever he tweeted,
right.
when Papagiannis got drafted. And he punted on this question 3 different ways of what you thought of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the video, last night because I didn't want to go on quotes on Twitter.
Sure.
I wanted to see how the question was asked and what his actual tonality was. Mm-hmm. And I came across, or he came across, and I took it as, yeah, he's not on board with the Papagiannis draft pick. That's my personal opinion. I don't have somebody telling me that.
Well, I mean, I want to give Mr. Divox, the benefit of the doubt and that he's not an idiot or whatever. But to me, when you have a plethora of needs all over the place, and you have a all-star center, probably the best big man in the league, and someone who really, on the talent scale, is, if he could get it together and transfer some of this into wins, he's really like an all-time talent. Like he's got a lot of talent and unique skill sets that you won't see probably for another 10 years or so. And if that's when you decide in the draft, when you have all those other holes to fill, that you're going to get the same position as the one thing that you have completely secured, it either tells me, like, if they did that and then they traded him the next day, that would make sense. But to me,
it's interesting you bring that up. Because...
I think it's not even nothing against the kid. I don't know. One time I saw him, he looked like he was pretty out of shape, but he's young and just way too fast the game for him. But I just don't understand. Like, you have to have a plan. Like, you can't just make a move like that.
Well, what if that is the plan?
Is to move DeMarcus Cousins?
That I don't know. I mean, I've never heard them even broach that topic with me, and that's, I guess, DeMarcus might be looking at that and saying, "Hey, are you getting my replacement?
Yeah.
Did you just hire my replacement?
Right.
Maybe that's why he's a little iffy on it. But the reason why I wouldn't even come close to getting on DeMarcus for his response, a lot of people were like, "Oh, you got to keep that in house." If you're not okay with it, because he basically said, like, I don't make those calls. Those are their calls. I just play basketball, and he made his displeasure with it known.
Yeah.
And the people out there are saying, well, you're the leader of this team. You shouldn't be communicating any sort of negativity about the organization, the decisions that the organization made, et cetera. And I'm sitting there going, you know what? He was about as honest without being over the top.
Yeah.
If you don't agree with something and it is that central to your job and your future with the organization, you don't have to go out there and be the company man and just kind of take it.
It's also too, I could see if this was an organization that has done the last 20 decisions that they've made have been pretty excellent decisions, and they've made this one decision that he doesn't like. And then you say, okay, DeMarcus, we know you don't like this, but you want to keep this in-house because this is something between us. And he goes, oh, yeah, 1 out of 20 decisions. That's pretty good. I'll keep this in house. They don't ever do anything right, and it's not like it's not like he'd be fooling anybody if what was he say? Oh yeah, it's great. This is a great decision. We have a point guard who might be going to jail. We have been drafting. We've drafted 5 2 guards in a row. Yeah. No, I understand getting this Papa kid. That's a great decision.
Well, that's the other half of this. It's not like he's the only one out there going, what is this? And I don't. We have a ton of Kings listeners, so I don't want to go, completely overboard with the kind of the assessment here, because we don't know what Papagiannis will be like, but we do know that there are tremendous needs at other positions.
Yeah,
and that this guy, the only reason he went up to 22 in the Draft Express mock, right before the draft, is that they knew that the Kings were high on him.
Right.
There was not a lot of interest in him, and even if there was another team that was interested, this does not look like a guy that they can play this year.
Right.
This looks like they have to keep Kosta Koufos now,
right,
which was considered a trade asset,
right,
which is no longer considered a trade asset in my opinion. Yeah. So now you're looking at moving Rudy Gay, who we'll talk about after the break, but Rudy Gay and Ben McLemore, and now you don't have Kosta Koufos to throw out there as bait. And if you're DeMarcus Cousins, I would, if I'm DeMarcus Cousins, look at this and say, hey, you might have been drafting my replacement.
Sure.
If you're that high on him.
Right.
And that, for all the stuff that DeMarcus does that's not desirable, that pisses everybody off. He has, like you've said, been through hell with this organization. Just the Michael Malone thing alone gives him a trump card.
Sure.
Not to use that name. Did you see that?
Did you see the speech?
My God.
His wife?
I just think that this is an example how schlocky things in America can be.
Yeah.
That at the highest levels of our whatever you want to call it, our country.
Yeah.
That there's some lazy ass speechwriter.
Yeah,
that's just
like plagiarizes
well,
his speech.
I don't think Trump's gonna notice. I don't think his wife's gonna notice.
That's so funny.
It's just a control F here. And,
Yeah. Put the whole thing in there.
you know what? The American people are stupid. Nobody will notice. They're only paying me $50,000.
Minutes later. That was amazing. That's amazing.
So, did the Trump card, like, expression, did that come from Trump, or is there, like, a different Trump that I'm unaware of?
I hope it didn't. I don't think so. He'll probably tell you that it did.
Because, like, what is a Trump card worth these days? I'm like, Mike, when they handle Michael Malone the way that they did, that gives DeMarcus Cousins the Trump card for the rest of his career. So, okay, I guess the Cousins comments, I would look at it as be like, hey, if we're trying to improve here, let's not take on a project that's going to take at least not this year but next year.
Yeah.
And as far as Papagiannis goes, I just think that the odds are tilted a little bit against him now to pan out.
Sure.
As that pick after we've seen him and what he's just got to lose weight.
To start, yeah.
That's his thing.
Yeah.
He's not allowed to eat any carbs, no sugar.
Yeah.
Put him on the brewski diet and get results. All right. So let's take a quick break. On the other side, we're going to get into this Russell Westbrook thing because not only that, Blake Griffin, the Celtics, there are some big pieces that could be moving. We heard a lot about trade talk heading out of the free agency period, and it hasn't hit yet, and I feel like it's going to hit soon. So we'll talk about that after the break. Koz and Bru!
Do you like to gamble? I mean really gamble. Not this fantasy stuff. I mean real spreads on real games. Hey, I'm Gino Lorenzo Vincenzo Spadafore, and I'm a professional handicapper. The best. If you want inside information on this weekend's game, call my hotline, 1-800-GINO-KNOws. I have the inside information that'll help you win big money. Just call 1-800-GINO-KNOws. That's 1-800-GNONOSE. I got the goods that Vegas doesn't have. Your QB was up all night? We know about it. Your free safety's been dipping in their nose candy? We know about it. Your kicker is in debt to us? We know about it. Don't be a loser on Sunday. Call 1-800-GINO-KNOws. That's 1-800-GNONOSE.
Welcome back to the show. We're talking about stupid people in America.
Yes, we are.
My theory on this is that it's hard to find good help. I've seen the highest levels of business. I've seen it. And it's just not that impressive. There are great businesses out there, and there are great thinkers and, really good innovators and all of this, but more often, when I go sit down with somebody that's worth a couple mil,
right,
and then I kind of look at what they do in their operation, I see some chumpy stuff going on. Some schlocky stuff.
Schlocky.
And it's like, mostly because, I don't know if that's even a word. That was a term that used to get thrown around the office.
Okay. I like it. Schlocky.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's just that I think people, like, if you enjoy a lot of time off and you don't like to work, but you like making money, and you get into these high levels of government or, trying to get into government, you could be schlocky.
You could be schlocky.
You might not put out good work. And you see it at all levels of this stuff, whether it's basketball. There's schlockiness in basketball.
There's definitely schlockiness.
Schlockiness in basketball media.
Definitely in the media.
There's some real schlockiness.
There is.
But I don't know that I'm going to call Russell Westbrook or Blake Griffin schlocky.
Nah.
That's a schlocky segue into the next segment of this show.
So what's this talk? I've been hearing a lot of Griffin talk this morning. That the
thing with Blake Griffin, and my good friend James, who I do the Kings Insider podcast with, he and I talked about Blake because he's tied into a Rudy Gay rumor, which to me makes a lot of sense. And that rumor, it was kind of illustrated as Sporting News put it. This was the talk of Summer League. Most executives believe that Blake Griffin should be, and I say should as like kind of what most people think is going to happen, and by extension to that, that's probably what they think should happen. Blake Griffin goes to Boston. Rudy Gay goes to the Clippers, and then there's an exchange of picks between the Celtics and the Clippers, as well as the Celtics and the Kings. So the thinking here is if you're the Clippers, my thinking is that you're not winning anything if you're the Clippers.
Nope.
So really we're talking about placating a few key people there. Steve Ballmer, who did not cry in a meeting involving Kevin Durant. Chris Paul, Doc Rivers, and the fans. I don't know if they're ready to throw the towel in yet.
Yeah.
But all I know is that Blake is this is his peak.
Yes.
His peak might have been a couple years ago.
It might have been a couple years ago. We'll see it with the injuries because there's a lot of rumor about that leg not being right yet.
Well, this is the fun part.
But I think that seems like just people putting that out to either devalue him or to get him out of town. I don't know what.
No, that was Steve Bulpett of the Boston Herald put that out. And this is funny. This is the time of year, whatever time of year this stuff happens, trade deadline. But this particular time, the first Sporting News report I thought did a good job. Sean Devaney did a good job painting this picture because he says that Boston doesn't want to part with their Brooklyn picks, which are very good. Top 3 type picks.
Yeah.
So the other angle he put out there is that the Clippers don't want to give Blake Griffin away for nothing.
Sure.
That's reasonable. This is both sides' perspective. Yeah. And now Boston's basically saying through Bulpett's report, look, that quad injury that last year you guys said, or not you guys, but the reports were that the quad injury was actually more of a concern than the hand injury. It was a quad injury that was holding him back.
Yeah, the hand was ready to go.
Yeah. So knock as many people as you want out, Blake. I mean, have a party. Because your quad's not ready.
Yeah.
If you want to punch people, go for it. So that was the next shoe to drop. My thinking is if you're Boston, you got this great core. You got to pull the trigger. I don't care what that draft pick is.
Oh, if you're Boston, yeah. Oh, for sure. If you're Boston, I don't think. I'm not a big. I mean, how could you? You know what Blake Griffin is when he's healthy. You know he's going to get you 23 and 10 to 12.
My question is not just do they give up a Brooklyn pick, is what else are they going to give up?
Yeah, I would want, if I was the Clippers, I would want the Brooklyn pick
and a player.
And a player.
Like a Marcus Smart.
Absolutely.
Somebody of that
Absolutely.
ilk. And,
absolutely.
If you're the Kings and looking at the Rudy Gay thing, I threw out Marcus Smart as a potential, trade idea. It is funny how many people overvalue Rudy Gay. Like I'm not a huge Marcus Smart guy.
Right.
But I do see a potential player. Defensively, I love what he does.
Right. That would be a decision that you could, if the Kings were able to do that, that's a decision you could look at and be like, now that's a good decision. Like that is a decision where you are thinking about winning a championship. You have a guy that has the potential to be a consistent lockdown defender and a guy that's going to improve. He can do, he can get to the rim.
He had some nice moments in the playoffs.
Yeah. So to me, that's a decision where let's just fix this problem. Okay, 2 guard. Next 6 years. Boom. Got it. move forward.
I don't know if I like him as a 2 guard, but I think as like a swing backup, 28 minute per game, or heck, start him at point guard. His shooting is a problem.
Right. It's not a broken shot though.
No, it's a shot selection issue. It's a dribbling issue. It's like all in one. He can't get the good look that he needs to get, and he still makes some bad shots.
Mm-hmm.
I think I really believe that shooting can be cured. I'm not a huge Marcus Smart guy, but I just look at Rudy Gay and I go, what else are you going to give me, Rudy? Like, right. What else? We know you can score. You're going to lose your effectiveness on that side of the floor.
It's 29. Be 30 at the end of the year.
It's hard to be a number 1 scorer in the NBA, or hard to be a number 2 scorer in the NBA. I think he got woefully misused last year.
Sure.
And so I do believe he can be effective. And I also look at him as the perfect solution for the Clippers.
Did they retain Jeff Green?
No, he's in Orlando.
He's in Orlando. Yeah, but the thing is, do you want, again, though, you're probably taking a step back for the Clippers. Do you just reset the whole thing?
But here's what the Clippers did this year. They re-signed everybody
I know.
On bad deals.
Yeah.
And the only good deals they made was the Brandon Bass one.
Yeah.
Brandon Bass was a great signing for them.
So
Bryce Johnson was a great draft pick for them, but that team's not winning anything.
But that's the thing. If you make those moves, that's what organizations I just don't understand. Like, you make those moves, you bring back Austin River, you bring back Jamal Crawford. You have to bring back Blake Griffin. Like, isn't that
maybe that was the thinking of Doc Rivers. He's like, I ain't rebuilding.
Yeah, I can understand as a coach
I'm bringing back the band,
right? I understand from his perspective. He's the coach. He has to deal with the losses and whatnot. Maybe he doesn't want to be in the rebuilding business. That's not why he came here. But you don't make those moves unless Blake Griffin's in your plan, because you're probably going to be, even when you get rid of him, you're probably going to be taking a step back talent-wise, no matter what you get for him.
That's the crazy part about this is what the hell is going on with LA. Because if you don't make this move, I'm sorry, you made a mistake, because you can't beat the Warriors.
Right.
This is either about money, butts in the seats, but it ain't about basketball.
No.
It ain't about winning a championship. You're never, repeat, never, zero chance. Get Cold Takes Exposed to just record this entire portion of the podcast. You are not winning an NBA championship, Clippers fans. It's not happening.
With this unit. Yes.
You have to make the trade. I don't look at them as having any leverage. I'm trying to conjure this thing in my head where Doc goes, okay, we're going to tell the rest of the league we're going to win it all, or that we're crazy enough to think this.
Right.
We're going to re-sign Jamal. We're going to re-sign my son at this ridiculous contract.
Yeah.
We're going to put
he did
everything.
Play pretty well with a busted eye.
I'm actually hired. How did that deal happen in your? I don't understand. Anyway. I'm not as down on him as everybody else, but okay, so you make everybody think that you're in it to win it this year. So to increase your leverage on the Blake Griffin trade, they're like, oh, man, Clippers are so crazy. We're going to have to throw in that extra pick.
Yeah, right.
Because if you're the Boston Celtics, you look at teams that would have a puncher's chance of beating Cleveland or Golden State, and I think if you add Blake Griffin to that team, and you're trotting out Blake Griffin, Al Horford, Jay Crowder, Avery Bradley, and Isaiah Thomas, and some decent backups there.
Yeah.
Kelly Olynyk as backup's not bad.
As a backup, yeah.
Yeah, and then Jonas Jerebko kind of gets freed up a little bit as a backup with Evan Turner leaving. He doesn't need to play those minutes anymore. Even guys like Terry Rozier are coming in their own. R.J. Hunter coming into his own.
Yeah.
I think that's a compelling lineup to have to try to cover.
Right.
So
it's not a walk. It's not a walkthrough for Cleveland by any stretch if they face them in the playoffs.
Well, and Boston beat Golden State in Oracle with a lesser lineup.
And almost got them in Boston too.
So I just think if you're Boston, like, you got all these draft picks burning a hole in your pocket, you're not getting anything done in the transaction market.
Yeah.
So what if you could have a great top 3 draft pick, down the road? Are you sure you're going to be able to keep Isaiah, Avery, Jay,
Yeah.
Blake, and Al in tow to where that draft pick actually matters.
Right.
I think in the NBA, you got to when you are within a puncher's chance,
You've got to go.
you got to go.
Yeah.
There's 30 teams.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think Kings fans want to hold the deal up because they think Rudy Gay's got.
Maybe they think Rudy Gay's worth a first round pick back or something.
I think if you get like a 15 to 20 pick, 15, 20 picks barely ever work out. If you, I understand why you would look lower than that.
Right.
I think 15 to 20 Kings fans should be happy. I think if you get Marcus Smart, you should be happy. I mean, some were even saying Avery Bradley.
Ugh.
And I'm sitting there going, if you get Avery Bradley,
You've won.
for Rudy Gay,
You've won.
I said, have a parade down J Street.
That is what you call a sucker's deal right there.
My God. Avery Bradley's really freaking good. Nothing against Rudy Gay. It's just, you know what?
No, it's not against Rudy Gay. He does one thing. He scores, and part of it's because of his athleticism size combo, and he's 30, so you know that's going to be diminishing in the next few years. That's the thing. I have nothing against Rudy Gay. He's just who he is. That's all there is to it.
A really good career.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think he'll have a great season I think he'll have a bounce back season this year.
And quite frankly, Memphis was never really the same when they lost him because he was really their dynamic scorer that they had to go along with the big guys and stuff. But he was the kind of the guy that can get a shot off late in the shot clock with defense hanging all over him and stuff like that. So and they've never really found that replacement for him. He's a good player, but at this point in his career, if you can get Avery Bradley for him, you've won, King fan.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other, that to me seems like maybe the opening act for the Westbrook salvo. This is going to be. It's starting to look like the Carmelo Anthony situation. To me, you're starting to see camps hunker down, and like Adrian Wojnarowski's kind of out there on one side saying the Thunder aren't going to trade Russell Westbrook. Mm-hmm. Others are out there kind of pitching the scenarios of how it happens. Mm-hmm. The Thunder appear to be hunkered down, trying to convince him to sign this extension. Mm-hmm. And I guess I respect that in the sense that you got to try to convince him to do this.
Sure.
Now, if this starts to go into the regular season, it'll probably go into the preseason.
Sure.
Now, the way that I kind of read this situation, all these parties want leverage. So one thing that the Thunder did is they rescinded Dion Waiters.
I saw that.
So now that they can open up cap space to do this extension, that's a move on the chessboard. Now, these other teams trying to get a Russell Westbrook, I don't know if their leverage increases as the season goes on.
The team's trying to get him?
Yeah.
I think it does. It does because there's no you can't ask for anything if you're Oklahoma City because it'd be rental unless you have the assurances. Like if you said to Russell, what do you want to do? It only benefits Russell Westbrook to play this thing out and go into free agent next year.
That's going to tear that team apart.
Huh?
That's going to tear that team apart.
I know that, but if you're a team that thinks you give him, if you're the Lakers, why would I give up a Randall Russell combo or something to get him now when I can hold my unit together and get him in free agency anyway? But the people that have no leverage are the Thunder.
But here's what happened with Melo. Nobody in their right mind thought he was going to the Nets.
No.
And the Knicks could have had him for almost a song.
Right.
Donnie Walsh was all over that.
Right.
He knew there was no viable option anywhere else, and he wasn't offering anything.
Right.
Until Jim Dolan stepped in and said, oh, we're just going to trade the whole thing.
Right, yeah.
To get him.
Yeah.
But any competent owner executive is not going to do that.
Right.
So my thinking is as you progress through the season, where does this leverage, where does it travel to? Because like if he zeroes in on, say, the Lakers or the Celtics or whoever it is,
right,
and the Celtics become interesting because at some point you got to just do the Griffin deal and get out of this what if business.
Right.
So then if there's only one team that Russell wants to play for, where does the leverage go? Like, the Thunder at that point might say, we're not being offered anything, so screw it. We'll just go through the end of the year.
Right. But they're still faced with the problem of not having
any return on that.
Any return on it. So that's the thing. If you think like this team is good enough to really do some damage this year, and you're willing to move, because to me, like, if you take Russell Westbrook off this team in next year's offseason, you have the Orlando Magic. You have Victor Oladipo as your best player. You have a really good, strong, big guy. You have, but look at, they couldn't make the playoffs in the East, the Orlando Magic. So, like, they're in a. To me, if I'm Presti, I'm most likely trading him as soon as possible. I hope you're in contact with him. You're saying, hell, do your free agent dance now and tell us, because you can get something if he's going to be cooperative. If he zeroes in on a team or two and says, and they know that this is where he wants to be, then you could ask for something, because I'd rather have a guy in there sooner than later either. But it's just not good. I just don't see this ending well unless Russell Westbrook really loves Oklahoma City and wants to finish his career there. And that's possible. I don't know Russell Westbrook.
That's the angle that's being pursued out there by the forces that want to keep the Thunder in Oklahoma, or pardon me, keep Russell Westbrook in Oklahoma City. Adrian Wojnarowski reports that teams are telling telling teams that Russell. I can't even talk. I was about to pull a Russell Westbrook, which is that happens everywhere. It's not right. There's two S's, two L's, and then a W. Russell Westbrook.
Consonant bonanza.
Yes, that he isn't available, and that's going to be, I guess, the first opening move.
Because another thing too, if you're a team that wants him, if you are a Lakers, if you are a Celtics, whoever, and you want Russell Westbrook, and you think you can get him, you even next year, you want to get him in as soon as, if you have the opportunity to get him in sooner than later, you will, because you don't know what the heck's going to happen. You don't know. Mark Cuban might fly in, and there's so many other things could happen in the offseason, where if you're a team that, if you know that you're on his 3-team list right now, I'm going to jump on it, because who the hell knows what Wild Harry's going to get up his ass in the offseason with all that cap money everywhere. You would get him now, have the bird rights, and he already might want to be there. I would make a trade now.
Yeah,
even if you think you can get him in the offseason.
I think they got. We've covered this before. I think they got to get the blood oath from him, and I want Russell Westbrook to stay.
I do too.
I like that team.
I wanted Durant to stay. I like the parody.
Yeah, I think that they actually become a little bit compelling with that particular lineup. But I get the sense that Westbrook's camp is not really talking with the Thunder, and the Thunder aren't really talking with him, and they're just, both sides are mobilizing, and waiting for somebody to throw a first punch,
right.
And that would be maybe waiting on the teams that would be targets to actually make their moves. And maybe the Celtics are dancing with the Clippers right now, trying to figure out if they can get Blake Griffin, and then trying to figure out what exactly they'd have to get rid of to get Russell Westbrook. And maybe Presti's like, Danny Ainge ain't being reasonable,
right?
Because he's never reasonable,
right?
They're probably offering, hey, have this Brooklyn pick, and that'll
be
that.
Call it a day. Russell Westbrook for the Brooklyn pick.
Isaiah Thomas isn't even involved.
Yeah.
We'll just put Isaiah back in the super 6-man role, and that'll be that. Yeah. So I just Presti has never dealt with these situations well, in my opinion.
No.
For everything great that he does, this is the one where I could see him and Clay Bennett waffling and dragging their feet, and then getting close to the preseason and the regular season, and then finding out something they didn't want to hear.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, God.
Yep.
And now the leverage just seeps out of the equation for them, and then they get into this death spiral.
Right.
And then you start to see, well, Russell Westbrook goes for this package that's really not all that great. And
Right.
then they come back and they say, well, we had to do it.
Right.
We had to try to keep him. And it's like, well, no, you didn't have to try to keep him. You could have traded him and gotten a massive
haul. Yeah.
haul for him.
Yeah.
Other items that hit the wire.
What about those Philly bigs?
They're just probably, everybody knows they're desperate to get rid of them. And I mean, Brian Colangelo was on, I think it was Sirius XM radio, and he was pretty honest. He's like, yeah, we got to get rid of one of these bigs, but nobody's giving us a good deal.
They're not going to get a good deal.
And that's where they basically sit.
They're not going to. This
is why you don't do this stuff, where you overpopulate your, a certain position on your team.
Right.
And I mean,
yeah, I don't. And I think that, and those guys, to me, they're again in a situation where you have some value, or at least you kind of know what these guys are. Nerlens Noel seems like he's just a defensive, bouncy guy, but there's promise. He's not like inept on the offensive side. You have Okafor, who is a back to the basket guy. Not the greatest rebounder, not the greatest defender, but you at least know where he's at. I mean, you know what you have in these guys. So you need to crap or get off the pot. I mean, you need to get this thing moving, get some people in there that can actually play together. Because right now they have a team of a bunch of dudes that can't play together. You stuck with, you decided to pick Mr. Hospital, Embiid, when, which makes no sense. Made no sense to me at the time. So you're stuck with that because you can't get anything for him.
This is the problem with tanking.
This is the problem with tanking.
Is sometimes the pieces don't match. Like, they're forced almost to take Ben Simmons, which I wouldn't have considered myself forced to take Ben Simmons. And now they got all their bigs just kind of returning.
Yeah.
And Saric is coming back.
And he hasn't actually been lighting it up over in Europe either. He's
been all right, but
he's been all right. But they've been part of their plan has been to bank on a guy that's just all right.
He had a good playoffs or pardon me, Olympic qualifier. He was all right.
Okay,
but still, it's like Nikola Mirotic was really good overseas,
right?
And look at what happens when you come over and play with the big boys.
Yeah.
It's not quite as easy.
Yeah.
There's a guy for the Kings that's going to justify that the trade out of the 8, Bogdan Bojanovic. And he might actually end up justifying that trade. He looks great over there.
Uh-huh.
And those are tough leagues over there.
Right.
We're going to see.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a lot of Kings fans want to pencil that in as a win.
Right.
And it's like, well, let's see how this all goes down. But for the Philly bigs, yeah, you if you tank and then the draft deals you this particular hand,
right?
I think you got to get out of it. You got to find a way to trade somebody, and that's you got to have the foresight. If you go best player available in certain situations, you have to know that you're getting rid of somebody soon,
right?
And faster than everybody else can pick up on it.
Right.
Because the minute they know you have to do that,
that's when you're stuck. You no longer have the leverage. And so I just think, to me, the quicker, the better. I think Noel can help, especially if Noel's on a good team, a team that needs a guy that can change some shots.
He's got the combo of vertical and horizontal.
Yeah. Pick and roll defense.
You just don't get this.
You don't get that too often.
The combo of steals and block stats, and I know both are stats that you have to look at questionably, but you don't see the combo of the two with him or with others. He has those.
Right. So I think he's actually really appealing to.
They have to bite the bullet and get rid of Noel because nobody wants Embiid.
No one wants Embiid.
Or Okafor. Yeah. Okafor was who I was going for, but nobody wants Embiid. Nobody wants Okafor. And maybe even try to get rid of Saric.
Yeah.
And you probably won't get the trade. You wouldn't be able to trade Ben Simmons at this point.
Right.
But that's the thing about drafting that guy is he's once you attach yourself to such a high value bet, it's so hard to get off that bet.
Right.
Because if it starts to go south early on, nobody wants to touch it.
Right.
So now you're attached for 2 to 3 years.
Right.
With Ben Simmons point forward. And
Ben Simmons point forward.
And he can't shoot.
At all.
At all.
And it's that, but I think
it messes up the timing of everything.
Everything.
Because if I'm going to give you, like, say, 4 feet of cushion,
right?
I'm not giving you the you can pass all over me cushion, the Andrew Bogut defense.
Right.
I'm giving you 4 feet. If you want to stop and pop, you got it all day.
Right.
Now I got your passing lanes. I could help off of you. I could do all sorts of stuff, and it gums up the offense, and it's going to be ugly.
Yeah.
So he might have a couple razzle-dazzle passes, some Rajon Rondo passes,
right?
But it ain't going to happen.
Right.
So sorry, Sixers fans. I don't know. Greg Monroe's out there. Bucks have been trying to get rid of him forever.
What are they doing over there? What are they doing? What are they doing?
They're ruining a good thing.
Huh?
They're ruining a good thing.
I mean, like, I don't understand what...
I thought the signing of Miles Plumlee was actually pretty strong.
That's fine. I'm not... That's fine. I just don't understand, like...
And Thon Maker, though he had, like, 10 fouls in a game, in a preseason game, he had a couple good ones. It does look like... But this is the problem, again. Like, now that you've got all these bigs to back up your trade... It's like what the Phoenix Suns did. It's like, okay, well, we don't know if we want to pay Eric Bledsoe, so we'll bring in Isaiah Thomas as leverage.
Yeah.
Oh, what happened to your leverage? You traded them all for nothing. You just completely screwed the pooch because everybody knows that you have to trade somebody.
And what's the deal? What are they? Are they still trying to get out of the Michael Carter Williams business? Or?
Oh, of course. Yeah,
It's so funny, like these teams like establish that, like, either he's just not that good or we don't think he's that good. But instead of just taking what you can get, they're all trying to wait for this. They're like, well, Michael Carter Williams was the rookie of the year, so we should get a killing for you. You have already told us by the way you play him and what you said that you don't think he's very good.
This whole thing, and we'll wrap this show up on this note. This whole thing boils down to having a relationship with the owner as a GM. To basically not be worried about your job.
Yes.
Because everybody's in cover your ass mode.
Yes.
And it perpetuates the entire organization. Everybody covers their ass. The leaks start to emanate because people are covering their ass. And then it turns into a circus shit show. And if you don't care what the public thinks, and you don't care what everybody else thinks, and you feel good that you got a job for 2 to 3 years,
right,
you're going to just be like, yeah, you know what? We screwed up Michael Carter Williams.
Right.
Let's just trade him. What can we get?
Right.
Let's put him on the block, and let's say, in 2 weeks, he's traded.
Right.
Make your best offer, and that's that.
That's that.
Whoever, Nerlens Noel, make the best offer,
right,
and that's that. Now, Brian Colangelo's got a lot of leash.
Sure.
He's gonna sit there and play this out. But he doesn't have a great history in this either.
Oh, are you crazy? No, he's great. He was executive of the year once. He's great.
You get that award just like you get the coach of the year.
I am. I am not the greatest Colangelo fan. He holds to what's going to happen though. If I had to put money down, I would say that instead of Philly having all these bigs, next year they're going to have like Ben Simmons at center, and no one else will be over 6'3" in the lineup because he's so in love with the 3-pointer and stuff like that. So, but everyone seems to think different of him. So we shall see. We shall see. But
yeah, it's dog days in July. Things will start picking up pretty quickly, actually, because the season ended a lot later, and I think that pushed people's schedules into a weird spot. I would guess that we have big news in the next couple of weeks.
I would think so.
And it's not quite the dead zone that late July, late or early August has been in the past. And before you know it, we'll be in preseason. We'll be doing lots of crazy stuff here at Hoop Ball.
Hoop Ball!
I think we need to call it Hoop Ball a little bit more often.
Yes.
It just sounds better.
Hoop Ball.
Hoop Ball. You can follow us online at www.kozandbru show, twitter.com/KOZANDBRU show. Another one in the books. I can talk. Peace.
Peace.